I'm Chris Merrill. He's Joe Huizenga. Joe, to let people in if they had missed this, I'm having trouble reconciling messages from the county attorney's office and the police department of Gilbert. And when we talk about the Gilbert Goons, and I'm going to bring in the Queen Creek Police Department as well. And the reason I say that is the county attorney says she's tough on crime, so much so that she's decided to lob some political lawn darts that seem to have distracted everyone else. Talking about New York. I'm not worried about New York. I don't live in New York. I don't care about New York. I care about here, Valley, Maricopa, Pinal. I care about these counties, right? This is it. Yavapai. Little shout out to my friends there at Gila, right? A few of you. So that's what I'm worried about.
And you've got people out there who say that Rachel Mitchell is doing this, well, because she's going to be up for re-election.
So she may be throwing these political lawn darts, I'm going to keep calling it that, at New York because it's good for raising her profile, maybe raising some campaign contributions, that sort of thing. But she says, I'm tough on crime. We also know, by the admission of both the police department and the county attorney's office, that they are in conversation, incommunicado with one another.
Lockstep, constant communication. Not just that they know what's going on, but that they are right there with each other.
They're consulting each other.
And as you said, the left hand knows what the right hand is doing.
Which would mean that before the Gilbert police arrest someone, the county attorney's office would know that that arrest is coming and would be able to say beforehand, there's enough for us to prosecute, or no, there's not enough for us to prosecute. Right? One would think. Now, again, I'm making an assumption here.
Maybe there's a second look done after they arrest somebody and bring them in, but again, if you're in lockstep, you would think that the Maricopa County Attorney's Office sits there and goes, okay, let me have a look at the tape. What are you seeing? Okay, you're going to arrest this person based on this. Good, got it.
The Gilbert Goons stuff is the most high-profile criminal activity in the Valley in 5 or 10 years, at the very least, right? I mean, we're talking potential street gang. We've got multitude of assaults. We have children involved. All sorts of things happening right now. Okay. So the Gilbert police, a lot of things have looked clumsy all along the way anyway, right?
Sure.
The last thing they want to do is make an arrest that's not going to be charged. Because that just, again, makes us wonder, who are they arresting? Do they even know what they're doing?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
So I might say Gilbert police don't know what they're doing, and except that I know that the attorney's office was in consultation with them, right? So unless I hear one of the Gilbert police saying, oh, no, we did that on our own, I have every reason to believe that everybody knew what was up.
Yeah, and you won't hear the cops say that because they want to arrest somebody and get a conviction. It doesn't look good for them if somebody gets released, too.
So when the county attorney who says that she's tough on crime starts dropping charges in the highest profile criminal activity in the Valley in the last 5 to 10 years, what am I to think? How tough on crime is she? And I wonder, why is she dropping charges?
But she's got to be tough on crime. She just told us she was tough on crime, and she doesn't want to let somebody go back to New York State.
Sometimes I think that the problem with smart people is that they assume others are not smart. I worked with a guy one time that he always thought he was the smartest guy in the room, and in many cases he was.
That is a big character flaw, though.
It is a huge character flaw because he fell into the trap of believing he could never be wrong because he was so smart. And he also fell into the trap of thinking that no one would ever question him because they weren't smart enough to do so. And I'm feeling that too. In this case, I feel like Rachel Mitchell believes that we can't see what she's doing when she decides she's going to open up this little political foray with the state of New York over who has jurisdiction over charging an alleged murderer first. And again, I don't care about New York. I don't worry about that. Mitchell's been drawn in by these politicians, and she's done this for a few years, right? She's been drawn in, and as good as she is as an attorney, and she's very good, she's not that great as a politician. And people are going to argue that she's masterfully playing this game of politics, and she's attacked the DA in New York, Alvin Bragg, and he's a Trump foe, and so she's attacking the same people that her primary challengers would be attacking. And look what she's doing; she's so smart. Except you are smart enough. You are smart enough not to be distracted by this interstate nonsense that has nothing to do with our safety. You're smart enough not to worry about the minutia of who has first crack at putting somebody behind bars. If the county attorney is going to say that they're tough on crime, they need to put up or shut up. So why are charges being dropped? Or let me raise this other point, Joe, because this one is really bothering me right now. Queen Creek Police had their very first homicide case. It was Preston Lord, right? That happened at the end of October last year. December 28th, the Queen Creek Police referred 7 individuals, a mix of adults and teenagers, to the Maricopa County Attorney's office. Okay?
It was pretty quick.
December, it was...
2 months?
2 months is pretty quick for an investigation. And
A murder investigation is very quick.
And they were saying, listen, we had an idea of what was going on, and the more evidence we found, the more it backed that up. I mean, they go, listen, we got this. We did it. We are almost 2 months from that moment of the county attorney's office just reviewing things.
Continuing to dot I's, cross T's, and check into it?
It took less time to write the I's and T's than what it's taking to dot the I's and cross the T's. Now, I understand. I'm not saying rush through, and at some point there's going to be charges, I assume. But why is that taking so long from the attorney who says she's tough on crime and murderers will not get away with it in my county? We have 7 people that the police believe are responsible for beating a child to death. 7 people who, to the best of our knowledge, are still walking the streets because the county attorney who says she's tough on crime hasn't gotten around to arresting them yet.
Could we argue that she's just trying to be really thorough and that there's a higher bar for a murder investigation than for what most of we see with the Gilbert Goons is assault, theft, things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can make that argument.
Could that be?
Of course.
What the reason is?
Then shut your mouth when it comes to saying you're tough on crime and others are not.
But that might be good for her political
It's funny you make mention of the political motivation, Joe, because many of us are wondering why charges against these 2 juveniles who were arrested by the Gilbert Police Department in separate incidents, again, not the Preston Lord murder investigation, but other Gilbert Goons investigations. Why are we dropping charges? And we really try to think why this might be.
The simple one is to sit there and go, again, if it's an either or, either the MCAO isn't tough on crime or cops didn't do a good enough job.
Yep.
It's the second option there. The cops didn't do a good enough job is the simple one, but then you come back to the fact that they're in concert with each other.
Correct.
So then you would say it has to be something else.
All right, so I was asking people about this, intelligent people, because I like to think of myself as smart enough to know my own limitations, which I think Mitchell does not.
And could they have overlooked something?
Is it possible that they're cutting a deal that we don't know about? Is it possible they're talking to these juveniles and they're saying, listen, your whole life is going to be ruined if we charge you with assault? Why don't you tell us who else was involved?
That's possible, but
we've seen that in Law and Order lots of times.
But wouldn't you tell the cops before you do that so that you don't have to arrest them and release them? That there's some sort of deal?
You would think, Joe, you would think.
You wouldn't think you cut a deal with somebody after you arrest them and then you just let them go, because that doesn't look very good for the cops or for you.
Not only that, but you would also think that if you were going to arrest somebody for assault and you were going to lessen that charge because they were cooperating, if you're someone who is claiming nationally to be tough on crime, that you wouldn't just offer blanket immunity.
And I would also think to take that a step further so that some of these victims and their parents who we've heard from, after one of those juveniles was released the other day, one of the parents came forward and said that they were PO'd and they were ticked off.
Yeah.
And I would say that didn't seem like acting to me, and that seemed like genuine parental rage.
Absolutely.
Because of what he'd been through, and more importantly, his child had been through. So there is no way that that parent is sitting there and acting and that they've convinced him, oh, but by the way, we cut a deal, so we're really going to get all of these. There is
no way.
So either they didn't tell him or he didn't know.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.